Hello everybody. Today I'm especially pleased to be able to introduce to you Brad Miller from DBBs. I met Brad a few years ago. Brad lives probably about 20 kilometres from where I am, further inland, on a much larger property, I think over 80 acres, which makes my little couple of acres look pretty easy going. I met Brad a few years ago when I was looking around to get into bees, and Brad's a local supplier of bee equipment, and he's also an active beekeeper or apiarist in your own name. So after meeting Brad, we kept in touch, and last year Brad presented at the Yelling Up Wellness Expo, and he also had a stall there. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get Brad in and have a conversation with him today, because his story is very interesting, it's very relevant, and most of the conversations we're having on this podcast are with local people in the Southwest, in the Cape region, with stories and lifestyles that I believe are contributing to the overall health and well-being of this community, and to the types of businesses and community activities that benefit all of us. I keep bees, but I'm a novice, total novice on it, but I'd like to know a lot more about them. But first of all, I'd like to ask Brad just how he came about being in the position of having a rural property. And I know it's not just bees, you also keep goats, and you making, I think your wife's making products from the goat's milk. So you have a real lifestyle, and it's a beautiful lifestyle. So so how did that end up? How did you end up with a rural property? Seems like you're loving it and you're enjoying it, and it's sort of very fulfilling from a soulful point of view.
Oh, totally.
And from your own life purpose point of view.
Yeah.
And but you weren't doing that. You didn't grow up on a farm, and you haven't grown up in a rural properties. How did you sort of make your way to that lifestyle?
Well, I grew up in a place called Campbell, which is in the Goldfields. It's like a satellite town out of Kalgoorlie, and we moved over from Queensland from another mining community in Mount Isa. I think the work had dried up, and my father was just looking to, because he just had me and my brother 2 years previous, and the work was drying up, and you got to provide for your family. So we jumped in the car and we headed over to here. We actually stopped at Wittenoom, and Dad got out, and for some reason he didn't like that place.
Fortunately,
which was very fortunate, exactly, because I probably wouldn't be here now. And then we arrived in Campbell, and then we just made a life from there. So basically my background is mining.
Right. Well, that's something we have in common that we haven't spoken much about, because Davey and I actually had some experience in the goldfields as well.
Oh, really?
We met in the goldfields.
Oh,
so we had some time in Kalgoorlie. So I know Campbell. I've been through Campbell many times. And I think we even had some relatives there for a while. So how long were you in Campbell for?
17 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Working underground, or there's mainly in underground operations, aren't they?
Yeah. So my dad was with WMC. I sort of went through school, did high school, and then kind of dropped out about year 11. I hated school. It just didn't I don't know. I just couldn't. It didn't click with me. So, and then I always looked at my father and thought, I'm never going to go underground. That's not what I want to do. And as soon as I got out of school, I was straight down the hole. My father had actually finished with WMC. This is when everything went 24 hours and contract mining took off. And he got a job up in Nullagine running the mine up there. And that was my first start underground. I was 17. I wasn't even supposed to be underground. So,
which was that, Paulson's or?
Nullagine. No, that's it's probably 50, 60 k's from Port Hedland?
From Port Hedland, okay.
Oh, no, sorry, 50, 60, no, it's about 200 k's from Port Hedland, about 50, 60 k's from Marble Bar.
Yeah, no, I've been up there. I did some work up there for my father.
Oh, okay.
Because he was involved in that industry as well for many years. So, Yeah, very, I mean, like Kambalda, it's classic Australian outback mining town and mining culture and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, we got up there and I think it was 55 degrees
Yeah,
when we got up there.
Marble Bar's the hottest place in Australia. It's one of the hottest places in the world.
Yeah. Knowing today that I should be dead by now at 55 degrees.
Yeah,
if you listen to the ABC. But no, yeah, that's what I started mining, and then I kind of fell in love with it, and then just started chasing the money. So mainly did startups because that's where the money was, like just high speed development mines, do the start, punch it down to the first level, and then once they got into the ore and all that, we'd take off and go find another startup.
Right.
Because that was paying the most money at that time.
Yes.
And then, as you know, with mining, 24 hours, and then FIFO took off. So then the progression was, I want to be in Perth. So I kind of moved back to Perth and then just flew in and out for probably, I don't know, did that for about 8-9 years, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then I just had enough of it and actually met my partner, worked for a company called ESA Sunshade Systems in Perth, and that's where I met my partner. She was my boss, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so the transition from mining into agricultural or rural lifestyle, you obviously, you went at that stage where you're retiring, it was a conscious decision to move out of mining, or you'd had enough?
No, not really.
No?
We bought a unit behind the Luna in Leederville on Oxford Street.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to buy one of those, and we set up there, and we just loved that sort of inner city living, and it wasn't even coming to our purview that this was an actual possibility. And then I was working underground, and my father said, "Oh, we should do something before I get too old, like do something together."
Right.
And so I was heavily into bike riding, and I was like, "Oh, let's go to the Tour and follow the Tour de France around." But it was the penultimate year. I think it was their 100-year anniversary, and the price was just out of control. So we ended up going to Nepal, and we biked.
A bit of a side trek.
Yeah, it is. We went to Nepal. We flew into Kathmandu, and then we flew to Lhasa, and then we bike ride from Lhasa to Base Camp Everest, and then back to Kathmandu. But on the way, I broke my ankle, so about 10 k's out from Base Camp Everest. Yeah, and I just tore ligaments off my ankle. I was being stupid, so I was popping a wheelie, and
It was the end of that trip.
That was the end of that trip. Yeah, no, I was lucky. There was a lady who was part of our group.
Right.
She worked on a reservation over in America, and she was a nurse, and she had all the gear to get me through.
Wow, what an epic trip that would have been to
it was amazing. It was kind of
mountain bikes.
Yes, mountain bikes. And that back then, now it'd be all sealed roads now, but back then it was all sort of just unsealed gravel roads.
What a great thing to share with your father.
Oh, it was awesome. Right. Yeah. It was kind of good. We did that together, and then my brother went with my father the following year to Kokoda track and did that.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was just the thing to do. So when I got back, because when I broke my ankle, we got back to Kathmandu, and we got into the hospital, and the doctor looked at it and said, "Get home. Right. You don't want to be here."
Yeah, you don't want to get infected and.
No, yeah, they were just. I've heard some horror stories over there. They just chop limbs off and stuff like that. So we got back home, and then I was out of action. I couldn't go back to work.
Right.
Because it was like, I think 8 months for recovery or something like that. Because I'd torn every ligament off the ankle and dislocated it. And then I was just trying to find a way back to work, and ended up at Bunnings. And then I came up with an idea that I was going to open an internet lounge.
Right.
A virtual vinyl store and internet lounge, which I did in Leederville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And this was all pre-smartphone, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we did that, and we thought, well, this is it. You know, we got a good business. We're living in the city, and then I started surfing. I was playing basketball with a bunch of mates, and that they were heavily into surfing. They said, "Oh, why don't you come up to where was it? The Spot up at Yanchep."
Right.
And started surfing, and then one day one of the guys said, "Do you want to come down south?" I was like, "Okay." So
Yes.
it came down here. I think it was like Easter weekend or something
You
like
would have
that.
started fairly late in life surfing then.
Oh yeah. I was over 30 by then.
Not easy to start at that age.
No. It was I'm still a bit of a kook, but I just love it. I just love being out there, really.
Yeah.
And I came down here, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." I was just blown away by the coast and how heavy the waves were, and I just made up my mind just there and then. And so I just couldn't wait to get back to Perth. And the trip ended, and we got home, and I opened the door, and I looked at my partner and I said, "We're leaving." And she's like, "What?" I said, "No, we're leaving. This is what I want to do. I want to come down here and surf."
Yes.
So she's like, "Yep, no worries." And she had some horses from a previous relationship up in Munster, and she's like, "I don't care as long as I've got somewhere to put my horses." I said, "No worries." So we got together and put our heads together, and my partner's great. You put her in motion, and she just drives it to the end. We looked at about 200 properties.
Yes.
And found that one in Cooloorab.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we walked straight on it, and
It's a lovely property. It's got a great energy about it.
We just knew that this was the place for us, and then that started, our journey.
And so how long ago was that, Brad?
That'd be going on 15 years ago.
Yeah,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a not uncommon story, is it? I mean, in something very unique about Western Australia, where a lot of us share that love for the coast and for surfing, but we also have a background in the outback as well, and have spent some time working out there on the mines or inland, and the ability to sort of go between the two, which I think is very special about Western Australia. I mean, but like you, I also fell in love with the southwest, but in a much earlier age. But it took me about 20 years to actually relocate and make this my permanent place of residence. But I think I was initially coming down here in my early teens, 13, 14. I was already surfing, and in the late 70s.
Was that from Perth?
That was from Perth, and this was an era like the late 70s. I mean, I don't know whether you've seen that movie, The Morning of the Earth. It's a classic old vintage surf movie about what it was like in the 70s. And very much that was my memory of it. And it was quite magical for a little while. It all changed pretty quickly in the 80s. But living down here is the closest I sensed to that sort of essence of what that story was about, Morning of the Earth.
Yeah.
It was sort of like a bit of the hippie revolution and that living with nature sort of movie, and interviewed a lot of real characters, and there were characters like that around down here in the 70s as well. And as a young fellow, we were so in awe of some of these characters as well. So it left an endearing mark on me, and the rest of my life I thought, that's where I want to be. So so then you're living here, and how did you start to find your way into the bee business?
We got down here, and I was actually still working, doing FIFO. I sort of just to pay off the property and the housing and all that stuff. Like we live in it, basically built a shed, and then we're parked up with a caravan, living out of that for probably, 2-3 years, I think. Yeah, and we did it tough. Like we didn't have two pennies scraped together, and anything that I made up on site, we put straight back into the loan. Right. There was no going out, going to the pub or anything like that. It was work on the property, back to work sort of thing. And then we got in a position where we paid everything off, and then I was pretty much at the end of my rope with mining, and I could see it was making a bit of an impact on me mentally, and especially being away from the property as well, and being away from my partner, and it just put me in quite a negative space, and I just knew that I had to get out, and then I just made the decision that I had to leave mining, because it is a trap. Anyone who's worked in mining in general, doesn't have to be underground, it can be surface. You grow accustomed to that lifestyle, and you're trapped in a way that, because the money is so good, you get used to that lifestyle, and I see it as being kind of institutionalized. It's kind of like, it's like prison, but you're getting paid. You know, you're told when to eat, when to go to work. This is when you sleep. This is how much you can drink. And I think a lot of people just like prison, they get accustomed to that routine, and they can't break out of that.
And how much healthier are you now, like compared to those days, in terms of your mental well-being, your physical well-being?
It's like today. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I actually when I stopped, because I was operating a bogger underground, which is just like a loader, and it just smashed my body apart. And I was quite lucky. One of Kath's friends, Janelle Stammers, who does touch therapy, she took my broken body and made me whole again.
Right.
Which was amazing.
Is she still here in the region?
Yeah.
Right.
You should.
Yeah, I haven't come across her.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She works with horses and.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's her jam. So.
Yeah. Wow. And how therapeutic has, like, the bees been in terms of, I mean, I know just their sound, their humming, their buzzing. I've got one hive here, and when I'm working in the garden and in spring, it's just a beautiful frequency to have around. But you obviously, spend a bit more time with them and have, a lot more going on with them. And I think they're even using bees in therapy now, some sort of
apitherapy
sort of combination of the bee frequency, the bee humming, laying over bee boxes or something. Is that have you heard of that? Or
that's pretty strange how you'd say something like that, because
why?
I'm in the midst of making a bee bed. So
there you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just
because there is some science behind it now. There has been some background.
Yeah, so apitherapy goes back centuries.
Yes.
Back to sort of early Russia. I think Slovenia is massive in bee apitherapy. Like, they have bee beds, and they actually have bee beds in primary schools and stuff like that. So if a kid's being disruptive or what, they send them to this little house where the bees are. They've actually there's a thing going on at GMAS. They have a observation hive there,
right?
And that ties in with kids who are disruptive in class. They just sort of send them to the observation hive, and it seems to calm them down. I think the bees' frequencies around 250 to 300 hertz.
Right.
So there's been a fair few studies about the calming nature of bees. Well, when you work around your hive, you're in the moment. You're not sort of thinking of the future or ruminating on the past. You sort of it just puts you, and that's what changed me. That sort of stopped that sort of negative internal dialogue was just being with the bees and concentrating on them and being in the moment.
Yeah, well said. Well, that's fascinating to hear about your developments there. So good luck with that. I'm sure it'll be.
Well, it's going to actually be mobile.
Right.
I'm converting an old horse float.
Okay.
So maybe I can park it up at Kundalini and we can.
Yeah. Bring it to our studio. We can do a
guys
workshop
can have
together.
a crack at it.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
We've got a bed that we use as well, which has got a number of, like, guitar strings underneath it.
Oh yeah.
What would you call it? It's full length bed that you lay on, and yeah, it generates an amazing frequency as well. So
It's called a monochord.
a monochord, thanks Davey.
A monochord.
Yeah, so look that up as well. So we use that as part of our sound therapy and sound baths. So it's great to see there's something else coming along. But bees have so many wonderful properties, don't they? I mean, the honey itself is amazing. I mean, that's healing in many ways. There is other products that come out of the honey, and there's even therapies associated with the bee venom too, isn't there? I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Something along those lines that's.
Yeah, they're using bee venom, and it's quite in cosmetics, as in like lip plumping and stuff like that, or using bee venom to get people back who have had allergic reaction to bees, then try and get who are anaphylactic to try and get them to normalise the level, so they're not reactive to bees. It's sort of doing it in that kind of space. Yeah, and you have like the propolis, and they're finding amazing things that you can do with propolis and the health benefits behind that. And I think they're using that in cosmetics and pollen as well.
So you breed bees too, like queens. You supply
Yes.
queens.
Yes, I do.
And what do they call them? Nukes.
Nukes, yeah.
Yes.
Little small colonies. Yeah,
Right.
we sell them.
And it's interesting you telling me that one of the sought after queens is the Rottnest Island
Yes.
queen bee. And why is that? Why did the...
Well, the Rottnest program has been going for, years and years, probably 20 years. I might be wrong. It's been going for a long time. And it's probably one of the most highly sought after programs in the world. One of the best
Is that right?
bee breeding programs in the world. Yeah, because of the isolation
Right.
of Rottnest Island. So basically, they can bring the people in the program can bring their own genetics in and control the genetics of the queen,
Right.
and that's highly sought after. And also it's the temperament and the colour of the bees, which a lot of people are drawn to.
I'm going to get on with my old school yelling up bees I have here.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we
So
actually
if I get another hive, I should go for the Rottnest.
Not necessarily.
No.
I've kind of found that if you get a mix of the two, because the Rottnest queen herself is like a racehorse. Like she needs perfect conditions because she lays like a freight train.
Right.
Like lays babies just continuously. So it's kind of like you want that type of queen if you're moving hives around.
Right.
So you need that. It's better used
For production quality.
for production quality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No use having like a racehorse if there's no food.
Yes.
Like your hive here, if it's sitting in situ, you're sort of controlled by
What's going on?
In
the trees.
Yeah, and they don't really like a dearth as well. They don't handle it. They're not as robust as you got your sort of your bees that have been mixed, mixed genetics. So we kind of found that like if you get the purebred queen and you mate it with a drone that's from the area, you get the second generation of that
The best of both worlds.
Yeah, you get the best of both worlds.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we found.
Yeah.
But the second generation is well suited to this type of environment.
So being in a rural property, it's an ideal setting to have a box and produce your own honey. We love our own honey, and last year, the beginning of the season was all peppermint. The only thing that was flowering around me were the peppermint trees. So it had a very strong peppermint taste, but by the end of the season, when the marries and the red gums came on, it balanced the flavours out. So that's one thing I love about this whole honey production, is that it sort of captures the essence of what's going on in the native bush.
Oh, yeah.
Immediately in our surroundings.
Yeah.
And it sort of it becomes a blend of that. And so, when you have some of that honey, that was from that time of the year and from those trees. And So
It's like a little foot mark, isn't it?
yeah,
A little
yeah, yeah.
bookmark in.
So who should have bees? I mean, if you're in suburbia in a suburban block, is that too small a space to have?
No, you can have bees anywhere really.
Yeah,
But yeah, in suburbia, you got to be a little bit careful. There's a lot of sort of guidelines you have with the councils and stuff like that, and I sort of sell bee supply to people that live in sort of semi-suburbia, you know, in a Bustleton, you know, Margaret
what sort
River.
of with bigger blocks, like 600-700 square metre blocks, rather than
Or even the little
Yeah,
blocks you can get
okay.
away. Yeah, it's just got to be a certain away from the fence, and there's a few other stipulations. You can only have one or two at the max. But the first thing I tell them is just don't tell anyone you got one. Don't tell your neighbour, because if they get stung, you'll be the first port of call.
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, right. So you supply the whole range of equipment from an amateur like myself to
Yes.
to a full professional production bee scale business.
Yes.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of that equipment in supply, haven't you, in your shed? So.
Yeah, so basically me and my business partner, John, who lives in Donnybrook.
Right.
So he sort of looks at sort of the upper region around Bunbury and all that. And then I'm all sort of down south, Margs, Bustleton, even as far down as Augusta, Walpole.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, we sort of started out pretty small. I think our first order was $1,500. We used to buy off Perth Bee Supply when we first started out, and then we grew so quick that he was like, I can't sell you any more stuff. And then we sort of went halves in a sea container, and then it just progressed from there. By, you know, the second, third year, we were buying our own sea containers.
So if you wanted to get into bees, how do you start? I mean, what's the sort of basic kit to start with, and the cost of that, and you know, the different types of boxes you can get, from the foam boxes to the wood boxes to even the flow hives. So there's a few decisions you have to sort of do your own research, do you, or would you sort of have a recommendation? I mean, how to go about it? Obviously, you've got to have a suit and a smoker and some of the basic tools.
Yeah.
Should you do? I mean, people do courses as well before they get into bees. I mean, that seems to be that's on something you probably do as well.
We don't really do courses, but we're a sponsor of WAS,
Right.
West Australian Apiary Society, and they have a Margaret River chapter down here that we actually sponsor. We're the major sponsor of WAS Margaret River, and I always sort of direct them to that, because it's just a local group that gets together once every month and talks about bees, and it's all local stuff. We talk about, you know, what's flowering in your area. We have a bee buddy system, and just anything to do with the southwestern beekeeping. They have their own hives at WAS. We have a meeting at the agriculture department in Margaret River, and they've got hives on site, and they actually, if you're a member, you get the training for free through WAS. So I kind of like direct people to that.
So that's WAS.
Yeah.
Is it?
WAS. WAS.
WAS.
West Australian Apiary Society.
Oh, good to know. And when should you shift into sort of having the separator, the spinner? Like myself at the moment, I'm just working on a pretty basic sort of honey extraction method where I'm really just using a couple of buckets.
Yep.
That seems to be working fine.
And do you crush your?
Yeah, I have a screen, and I just scrape the capped off racks into the bucket and let it filter through the screen, through the holes in the bucket.
Yep.
And I'm only extracting 2 racks at a time. So when do you need to sort of go to the next level and actually get
A spinner?
the spinner of the full extraction?
I think it's just personal choice. Like, beekeeping is so many different ways you can do it, and that not all of them are right and not all of them are wrong. It's just I just tell my clients, whatever works for you.
Someone said that the good thing about the spinner is that you're not destroying the comb, and so that when you put the racks back into the box, there's less work for the bees to have to start from.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
that sounds like a good thing to be doing, and make the bees have got enough to do. They're having to rebuild
Rebuild the comb.
the structure every time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd recommend a spinner.
Right.
For sure. Crushing it's fine. It's just a lot of hard work. Whereas spinner, you can just take the cappings off, throw it in, spin it up, and as soon as they're spun out, you can put them straight back in the hive, and they can.
How do you take the cappings off? With a hot knife or something?
You can use a hot knife, or you can just pick it off with a fork.
Right.
There's a few different sort of devices that we have to do that. It's just right. It's all down to personal preference and what works for you. And I'm not going to tell anyone that that's right or wrong. There's enough people in our industry that think that they're the law, and what they say is is the right way.
Do you see any trends with sort of bee keeping that are coming forward, or even the health of beehives, or threats to the industry? I mean, and just generally in WA. I mean, I think it sounds like we have a very good.
We're
culture.
We're like the Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Of beekeeping.
Right.
Like, we're one of the very few places that has varroa. Varroa is coming. It's an inevitability. Like you can't stop it. What is it? Sorry. Varroa mite.
Okay. Yeah.
You would have heard about the incursion that we had. They had in Newcastle, in New South Wales. It's still spreading now, and it'll eventually get here. The lucky thing about it is we've got a lot of grace. Like, I think, by all reports, with the people I've talked to in the industry, we've probably got 7 to 10 years grace, barring a calamity. And we know human nature, anything is possible. So
what happens if mites do make their way across to Western Australia? Is that like whole regions get affected, or just isolated properties?
It'll spread everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
And
that means you've got to check your hive and regularly see if it's there. Yeah. If it is, that's the end of the hive.
You just learn to live with it.
Right.
There'll be an adjustment.
Okay.
There'll definitely be an adjustment. I think the domestic market will suffer the most, because people go, "Oh, this is another added cost," and they'll drop out. Yeah, I think the domestic market will take a fair bit of a hit, but like anything, any disease that happens in any industry where it happens and everyone freaks out, and then there's this sort of cooling off period, and everyone just learns to
settles down,
live alongside it. Where over in the States and places where it's been there for years and years and years, they've adjusted, and they're still producing honey, and they're still producing bees. So
I mean, bees are necessary for the pollination of fruit, and all the orchards in the southwest need bees for that whole cycle in the orchards, and some apiarists supply the bees to the orchards, don't they? That's a business in its own right. So
I think the biggest hit will be like the feral bees will adapt quicker. It's kind of known that they'll adapt quicker to the varroa than your bred bees as well. Like, I think the Rottnest queen will definitely suffer, and her progeny, because they're sort of such a purebred that they're not used to that kind of.
Well, let's hope it's longer than 10 years away.
So, yes. Yeah.
And anything else that's like pesticides? Are they a threat to bees? Spraying, EMF radiation. Where you are, you're free from all of that, but I guess some places have more.
There's
more exposure to.
Yeah, there's a few chemicals that are really, really, really bad for bees. They kind of disrupt their GPS, where they get disorientated. I think they passed something over in the US. I forget what the chemical, what the agent in the chemical was, but it's part of an insecticide, and it's really quite damaging for bees.
Right.
I don't think we have it, it's allowed here yet, but I know over in America they've allowed it. So yeah, bees are amazing. Like they're so robust in the way that they can evolve sort of any parasite or insecticide. They seem to evolve out of it. They're quite amazing creatures.
There's a lot to learn from being around bees. Just the whole, it seems to be never-ending world of sort of information and knowledge that you find out only through the process, really, don't you? I mean, living with them. I mean, I've never experienced seeing my hive sort of swarm and create a new queen.
You caught a swarm?
I have, yeah. And
It's pretty amazing,
I've been
isn't it?
out and I've actually picked up 2 or 3 swarms over the years, and most of them have gone really straightforward, low hanging on a branch. And I've just been able to cut the branch, drop the branch into the box.
Have you ever been in the middle of a swarm?
No,
It's quite amazing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's quite amazing where you can actually see the queen, you can see the swarm
Right.
just expand and contract, and then when
I had them come over the top of me. I've been out in the garden, in the veggie garden, and I've just heard, ooh, and there's been a swarm from around here that's left one of the marrow trees, and they're looking for a new home. And they just been right over the top of me. Yeah, not around me, and then off they go. But apparently they don't sting when they're swarming.
No, they're sort of they're keying on just keeping the queen alive.
Right. So she's in the middle of the swarm, and they're
just looking
sort of herding her to.
Yeah. So basically when the reason why they swarm, it's usually like in nature, they move into a hollow or a tree stump or whatever, and basically a big flow happens and they fill that area, and then because everything's full of honey, she runs out of places to lay. So what happens is they raise another queen, and then after 16 days after that new queen emerges, the old one grabs a bunch of workers, and then that's your swarm. So that's how they kind of procreate in nature.
So the new queen takes over the
hive,
existing hive.
Yeah.
Old queen goes off to make a new hive.
So basically, she's a virgin. So in the time that she pops out, she doesn't go off and get mated for a few days. So I think it's about 2 weeks before by the time she goes on a maiden flight, comes back, and then eventually starts laying. Because they've lost so many numbers, the hive will contract, they'll eat all the stores and that, and then they'll start again.
Yeah. And when you start with a swarm, my experience is you don't get much production in the first year. Sort of leave them for a whole 12 months has been my sort of experience. Just let them go.
Yep. Yeah, I've found that actually the less you sort of disrupt them, the better they are. I've seen studies where if you're constantly going in and out of your hive, you disrupt the core of the brood, and it takes them a long time to reset themselves and get that core temperature back up again.
Right.
Because they've got to run at about 35 degrees to keep the brood alive.
Excellent. And so where do you think you go to next, Brad, in terms of you've got the therapy bed coming along, which will be fascinating to see how that is taken up. I'm sure it will be very popular, but what else is on the horizon for DBBs?
For DBBs, I don't know. It's such an organic thing, the business, from sort of humble startings to now that we're getting sort of sea containers coming from China to get our woodware in, and then we've also got a premium range called the Techno Set, which comes from Greece, which is a plastic hive.
Right.
And we've never really advertised. We're sort of just like a backyard operation, but it's grown exponentially so much. But we've never really, I don't know. I'm not one to sort of go and spruik about it.
No, but I mean, you are the go-to for this region, really.
Yeah, there's actually still a lot of people that actually don't know us and still go to Perth.
Okay. Well, hopefully this interview today will help get the word out there, and more people will learn about your business and your enthusiasm and expertise in the area. And you'll be presenting again. You'll be at the Yelling Up Wellness Expo this year, which is October the 27th. So anybody who's listened to this interview and wants to know a little bit more about Brad, bees and how to get into bees, or even if you're already into bees, if you have any questions or want to know anything, feel free to come along to the Yelling Up Wellness Expo at Caves House on Sunday, October 27. It's been fascinating having a chat today, Brad. I really
Thanks for
enjoyed
having me here.
I've learned a lot.
You and Danny.
And yeah, I look forward to catching up with you soon at Yelling Up. So thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Cheers.
my pleasure.